Hello, this is just a guy talking about Doctor Who. This is my first video, so with nothing to go by, I just use a random number generator for this, and they came up with number 115, and that was quite exciting. Will I be talking about a great classic, or will I be talking about a terrible story that I could rip on? But then it ended up coming up as Logopolis, which some people say is a great story, but I've just never really felt that about it. I don't dislike Logopolis, but I don't really like it. It's very much a meh story for me, and I wasn't really that excited to be watching it for this video. So it was written by Christopher H Bidmead, who was also the script editor for season 18, and he tried to insert throughout the series the concept of enthalpy, as this is the concept by which the longer the universe exists, the more that energy tries to equally spread throughout the universe. And this was very much a commentary for the Tom Baker era, because this was his 7th season as the Doctor, and of course in the 7th season everything was starting to stagnate, and you could see this on screen. So enthalpy was a nice commentary of this occurrence. But the fact that they're commenting on the stagnation of the Tom Baker era does not mean that you can overlook that stagnation, because through the first couple of episodes of this serial in particular, you can see that Tom Baker does not want to be there, and he has no interest in Adric. Who played him again? It was who was it? Doctor Who. It was Matthew. Yeah, Matthew Waterhouse played him, and you can tell that he isn't really a great actor, and sorry to say this, Matthew, but there was a reason why you're hated and were killed off, but really your performance killed off the 4th Doctor as well, so Tom Baker doesn't want to be there, and you can see that, because I swear he does not once look Matthew Waterhouse in the eyes. He's no interest, and he seems to just be wandering around trying to get away from him, frankly. And then we have Tegan show up, and Tegan was invented to try and make Doctor Who more popular in Australia as an attempt for ABC to go into partnership with the BBC in funding for the series, and this was all part of John Nathan Turner trying to get the budget back up, because as we all know, the budget was severely cut during the early 80s. So Tegan in this is just sort of there. She just sort of wanders around shouting at people, wanting to get back home, and for some reason she opts to stay on Logopolis with the Doctor and the Master instead of going to TARDIS with Nyssa and Adric, and she's just there. She doesn't really do anything for the story except for have her auntie get killed. And you can tell that Janet Fielding doesn't really come into role until season 20, basically. And then also you've got Nyssa for some reason. I mean, I'm not complaining that we got to see more of Nyssa, yeah, but this role was intended for either Sarah Jane or Leela. But both Elizabeth Sladen and Louise Jameson turned this down. Years later, Louise Jameson would say that it was because she would have had to return for season 20 like Nyssa did, but had no interest in staying for that long. And Elizabeth Sladen, of course, went on to do K9 and Company, which was just so successful, wasn't it? I mean, everyone thinks, remember that K9 and Company? That was a great single episode pilot, wasn't it? Though, you must give it to them, they did build on Nyssa's character in this by having her planet get destroyed, though she doesn't really seem to have the same hatred for the Master when she meets him later on than you would expect from the line,
"The Master killed my stepmother, and then my father, and now the world that I grew up in, blotted out forever."
That should have made Nyssa hate the Master much more than she does in Castrovalva and Time Flight, but it does build on her character, which they kind of had to rush in, seeing how she wasn't supposed to be a returning character. And of course, I am very grateful that we got to see more of her. But back to Logopolis. So the first episode, they're just sort of wandering around for a bit. You don't really know what's going on. For some reason, the Doctor's trying to fix the dimensions of the TARDIS, and you just wonder why, if he's been able to do this the whole time, why he doesn't just fix the comedian circuit, but it's something to do with the Logopolians being able to alter the TARDIS exterior because of mathematics. Because for some reason in this, the entire of the universe's structure is defined by the Logopolians calculating the structure of the universe with mathematics, and that doesn't really make sense, because what about before the Logopolians existed? Have they been around since the Big Bang? Did they make the Big Bang happen? Just what's the whole concept of them controlling the universe doesn't really make sense, and there are a lot of questions that get aroused from this. Such as how come if this guy knows the entire of the transcript off by heart, why they have to get all these people to calculate it? And if only 3 errors in the calculation can potentially destroy the universe, then how come that hasn't happened before? Because even the best mathematicians make mistakes. And why don't they use computers? Because they say that the computer itself will be defined by the mathematics that it produces, but so are the minds of all the Logopolians. And why do they need the Faust Project? Is the Faust Project somehow the best computer in the entire world? And why does the Faust Project exist? Because if in Doctor Who, aliens come to Earth all the time, then why are we searching the universe for aliens? And why does the Master still shrink people? And why does this person get made unconscious by being pulled out of the way of the Master's compressor? And was the Master intending to destroy half the universe? I mean, he kills a couple of people and acts like he didn't, but then he uses it to hold the universe to ransom. And how is he going to stop people from getting destroyed by enthalpy? Because he's just at the Faust Project. They just send signals out into space. How can he stop enthalpy with that? And how is he able to control where enthalpy affects? And was he intending to hold the universe to ransom using enthalpy? And why doesn't the Faust Project have any railings? For this exact reason. And why are there loads of guards at the Faust Project? Do people try to break into the Faust Project all the time? What's there of any value? And why does the universe look like this? And what's all this in the background of the universe? And how does Adric know that the Earth still has a few hours left because of how enthalpy works? And why is Nyssa in this? How did Nyssa get to Logopolis? Why did Nyssa leave Traken? What was there in the Keep of Traken that set up Nyssa's return? Where does Nyssa get trousers from in Castrovalva if this is all that she has left of Traken? Well, why is Tegan in this? Why does this story exist? Why didn't Christopher H Bidmead get another script editor? What happened to Anthony Roots? He did Eric Stuart Seward's work. Why didn't Christopher H Bidmead return for another season? Well, why did Tom Baker hate the role? Well, was it because Lalla Ward left? Did he not like the role anymore because Lalla Ward left? I'm going to remind everyone that Tom Baker and Lalla Ward were married for a bit, despite having a 17-year age difference. Why does getting rid of Romana's bedroom mean that they can suddenly escape? Why were they trapped? What was wrong with Romana's bedroom? Why did they try to flush the Master out of the TARDIS using the Thames? How big is the TARDIS? How much would the sea level of the level of the Thames go down if they were to open the TARDIS doors? How would the Doctor and Adric have survived had they flooded the TARDIS with the Thames? Why didn't the TARDIS materialise under the Thames instead of falling into the Thames and landing on top of a boat? Why is the Watcher here? Why isn't the Watcher ever returned in any other stories? Why was the Watcher the Doctor the whole time? Where did the Watcher come from? Why is this how regeneration works now? Why do people hate the end of time for jerking off the 10th Doctor's era when they do the same thing here, albeit for a much shorter and subtler time? I probably just answered my own question there. Well, why did the Master steal Nyssa's father's body? Can Time Lords just steal bodies? Because in the movie he had to turn into a snake thing to steal someone's body. So can the Doctor steal people's bodies, or is that just the Master because he's a snake thing? And if he can change the TARDIS exterior, why is he keeping it as a police box? And why does he care so much that the outside of the TARDIS looks like a police box to actually go and measure a police box? And why doesn't the TARDIS within the TARDIS within the TARDIS, why doesn't that create an infinite regression? And why did the Master kill this police officer? Because he's the Master, I presume. And why? What was Auntie Vanessa? Why was she helping Tegan to the airport? Is Tegan fired because she never turned up to work? Because she said that she was going to be an air stewardess after today, and not turning up to work, you're kind of not going to be an air stewardess after this, but yet she seemed to become an air stewardess in Time Flight. And why does Time Flight exist? And why does any of this exist? And why am I thinking so much? And Christopher H Bidmead, why did you not get a script editor? But those are just some of the questions I have about Logopolis. The thing about Logopolis is that it's basically about large portions of the universe get destroyed. I mean, whole planets and systems and get destroyed in a story, but it doesn't really have the feeling that half the universe is getting destroyed. And how did they stop the universe from getting destroyed? Is that answered in Castrovalva? Do I have to watch Castrovalva now? I do not want to have to watch Castrovalva again. But how does any of this work? Because back to my point, it's large parts of the universe getting destroyed, and this story does have a sense of finality about it. But it's not really got the same sense of finality. It feels more like the universe going out with not with a bang but with a whimper, to quote whatever philosopher said that. There's a lot left unanswered about the story, and they don't really do much to answer that in the story. It does have some interesting ideas in it, but these ideas aren't really fleshed out much. The idea of flooding the TARDIS with the Thames is quite a cool idea, but it does not work practically. There's a lot in this just left unanswered. And the Fourth Doctor dies by falling off the Faros project, when you wonder why there aren't railings there for that exact reason. But also, all he did was stop the Master holding the universe to ransom. He didn't stop the universe from getting destroyed. So what's the purpose in his death was really clear. Though he does have quite good last words.
It's the end. But the moment has been prepared for.
It's quite a good finishing line, and again it fits in with how his longevity was starting to become a bit overdone by this point. Overall, what would I say about this story? I would probably have to give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I'm going for a 7. It's got good ideas in it, and it's pretty decent, but there's a lot left unanswered in this, and I know there are people in the comments who are just gonna be screaming at me, but they answered that in Castrovalva! You forgot this line! You can't understand how great this story is! I'm gonna kill you now because racist things, racisms, and I know that's gonna happen, but it's if you come away from this feeling unsatisfied, then it is an unfulfilling story. You shouldn't have to go back to it, and you shouldn't have to go and ask people to understand the story. And that's why I feel that it's overrated. And it's not bad, it's just overrated, and to me it feels meh. And it didn't really have the same grandeur, if that's a word. I'm not even going to look that up, I'm just going to assume that's what. It didn't have the same scale that you'd have expected a Tom Baker's last story to have had. So now, let's see what I'm going to be reviewing next week. We're not reviewing, talking about. This is not a review, this is just chatting about Doctor Who. Because if this was a review, it would just be another generic YouTube review. 19, okay. Come on, 19. This is going to be a first Doctor story. Please don't be missing, please don't be missing, please don't be missing. 19, oh god, it's going to be missing, isn't it? Oh, Mission to the Unknown. Oh no, that's animated, I can do that. Okay, so next week I'm going to be reviewing Mission to the Unknown.